response. Now, Sinn Féin Republicans may have the upper hand slightly on Belfast City Council, but the laws over here state that any arrangements must be cross-community.
Sure.
But in saying that, it wasn't cross-community when they tore down the UF.
That's right.
You know?
It was just done, and that was it. No one had a say in it. It was just, it was down, and then you just need to go along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stick it in your craw and swallow it. That's it.
Yeah,
but
I mean, what we're saying on this platform tonight is forgive and forget, because it's always something that's getting crammed down loyalist throats, and when you object to forgiving and forgetting, you're branded all these nonsense names like
that's right, you're a bigot.
Yeah, exactly. But you're saying, well, like I said earlier on, Paris, London, New York, no one would ever expect in 1,000 years for these people to forgive and forget those who caused terror attacks in these cities, but people in Belfast, Enniskillen, Coleraine, Birmingham, all the other places that have came under attack by the IRA, because they happened in Britain, we're expected to forgive and forget.
Yeah. Because
it didn't happen by, would it be fair in saying, because terrorist attacks weren't carried out by Muslims from the Middle East? I mean, would it be a fair point, because it's Irish Republicans that's carried out the terrorist attacks, we're expected to forgive and forget, but no one would.
I often wonder what hold the Irish have over Britain. Britain seems to be just compliant right down the line. Whatever they want, they get.
Yep.
You know, and it's just
hard to understand, isn't it?
Like yourself, I'm an ex-serviceman.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to swallow all this that's going on now, you know.
Can you see things? I mean, going back to my earlier point, where everyone right now, it seems to be they're at a standstill. No one's wanting to budge any further, especially loyalists. The loyalist community is at a point now where they're saying we've got nothing else to give.
Well, it's very true. There is nothing else to give.
Taken. Our politicians have led us down this path, promising so much, and they've delivered so little. Loyalists have got nothing else to give, so loyalists are firmly kind of dug in. You know, the trenches are built and they're dug in for the long haul. Everyone's at this standstill. All I can see from Scotland, in Scotland and in Northern Ireland, is tensions just below kind of boiling.
Yeah.
Where, you're saying something's going to give, and I know for a fact loyalists aren't going to give anymore, so it needs to come from somewhere else. But then I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, I'm looking everywhere else and I can't see anyone budging at all.
Well, it has been mooted from certain quarters in republicanism that what they want is us sent home. Should that be Scotland, England, Wales? They want us out of here. And that's being voiced by Republicans. That's their ultimate agenda. It's not fighting over the border or anything else. Now, once you get rid of us, they have their All-Ireland. And this is the agenda, the road some of them are going down now.
Yeah, mate, it is a difficult pill to swallow. But while I've got you on the radio, I'll ask you the question: if someone comes up to you tomorrow and says, "Can you forgive and forget what's happened by Irish Republicans?" What would you say?
Well, when I stop laughing in his face, do you mean?
Yeah, when you stop laughing in his face.
I'll be telling them DFO. I have a brother lives down near Larne, was a prison officer, crippled from the waist down, shot in the back. There was 2 attempts in my life, none of which was any justice received for. So forgive them, forget what they did. Not a chance, mate.
I'd asked David earlier on when he'd called in. What you've said there, you've said that you haven't had any justice for what's happened.
No.
I said to David, if justice were to come your way, would that change your opinion at all? Could you then maybe start to forgive and forget Republicans? I doubt it very much, because if you go back to the HET, set up all these investigations. Of the 100% of investigations they're doing, there's only 3% of loyalists, let's call it PUL,
investigations of crimes against PUL people are being investigated. 97% is Republican investigations.
Sure.
That's right. That is fact.
That tells
So
you
you
really need
Brits
to know.
can just lump it. We'll deal with approvals the way we want to.
Yeah. That actually tells you all you really need to know, doesn't it? You don't need to go back.
Oh, it's from Westminster, BBC, right down the line. It's all been played. Just keep them quiet. Keep them quiet.
While you're on the show, is there anything else you want to bring up at all?
I don't know, I'm enjoying listening to the show. Absolutely fantastic, mate.
No, that's terrific. Well, I appreciate your input tonight. Thanks very much for calling.
Well, a bit nervous on it. Maybe next time I'll be a bit straighter.
Of course. Well, when I found out it was just myself on the show tonight, you know, I had the same feelings. I says, "Oh, how am I going to do this myself?" But hey, you get there, don't you? You just
as long as you're interested in what you're doing, is the main thing. It was great. I have to say, listening to the Scottish Soldiers.
Sure, yeah.
Thing with Ian on.
Yeah.
And it was great to hear his voice again. I used to listen to Rangers chat, you know.
Oh, aye.
It was great to hear his voice. So when you're talking to him, tell him Blue Max was asking for him.
I will do, mate. I will do. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Good night. Cheers.
Good night to you. Bye-bye.
Well, you've heard it for yourself, folks. If you've got anything that you want to say from what's just been said, call up 0141 416 1690. Getting back to the last one that I'm going to bring up for tonight, there's too much murder that's happened at the hands of these Irish Republicans to bring up in one 3-hour slot. So the last one I'm going to bring up tonight is the M62 coach bombing. The M62 coach bombing happened on the 4th of February 1974. M62 being a motorway in Northern England, the Provisional IRA put a bomb in the coach that was carrying. Again, it seems to be the way of things here. The coach was carrying off-duty British Armed Forces personnel and their family. It killed 12 people, 9 soldiers and 3 civilians. And it was a £25 bomb, an 11kg bomb of high explosives that was hidden in a luggage locker on the coach itself. Judith Ward was convicted of the crime in 1974, so the same year. 18 years later, the conviction was judged as wrongful and she was released from prison. The coach was commissioned by the British Army and the Royal Air Force. At the time, there was a strike by railway staff, so there was no trains on, and they had to get the buses to and from Catterick and Darlington. I'd done my training in Catterick, so between Catterick and Darlington, the army still does the bus runs for trainee for infantrymen in training. They still run the buses from Darlington train station to Catterick garrisons. So that's where the buses were put on. The buses were put on for servicemen and their families to get from Darlington to Catterick. But in this particular case, the bus was travelling from Manchester. It was coming back. It was along the motorway. Shortly after midnight, there was a huge explosion. The whole bus exploded and it killed 9 soldiers and 3 civilians, like we've said. But again, it's off-duty service personnel. That's been the way of things. Let's see, we brought up the Mazarine barracks. They were off-duty. We brought out the Free Scottish Soldiers, off-duty. Derek Woods, David Howes, the Corporals killings, known as, they were off-duty. Now we've got the M62 coach bombings, off-duty. We brought up earlier in the show the Warrington bombs. We've looked at, we've spoken a little bit about Jane McConville. One of the callers brought up about the alerts that the IRA used to do, you know, the phoning up and advising that a bomb was here and there, and the IRA are trying to say, we phoned in and we warned people that a bomb was here, and then we phoned up the security forces. The security forces have then failed. But as someone's just said, Bloody Friday. There was so many phone calls going in that when Republicans are talking about we phoned up this place and that place and we gave ample warning and the security forces failed to clear the place, that's how people died. When you look at things like Bloody Friday, the phones were going off their hook. They were sending the security forces to places where there wasn't bombs, they were sending them to places where there were so many. So that excuse doesn't stick, because if that was the case and you were phoning up to get people out before the bombs went off, then Bloody Friday's an example of them doing something totally different than what they're saying before. It was all that there was so much hoax calls going on at the times that no one knew what was real and what was a hoax. But yeah, sticking to my point, which I just made there, it seems to be off-duty personnel seemed to be something that the provisional IRA seemed very keen on targeting. When these service personnel were off duty and out of uniform, that's where they wanted to strike. I'm going to post up a list on the website. Many of you would already know many, or if not all, the atrocities that I'm going to post. I'm going to post different links to different things that I found throughout the day for the kind of Aldershot Barracks bombings, the Omar bombings, even Lord Mountbatten, the Australian tourists. They were both lawyers. Nick Spanner, Stephen Melrose, I posted about them as well. Warren Point, the Hyde Park was a big one, and it was a sore one for many people to swallow, because it was the chap responsible for it, the Republican responsible for it. It later turned out that he had one of these on the run letters, one of his OTR letters. We also spoke about prison officers, how they come under attack as well. More recently, we've seen prison officer David Black. He was murdered on his way home from work. Now, the book that I'm reading from is called Lost Lives, the stories of the men, women and children who died as a result of the Northern Irish Troubles. It's a hardcover book, very expensive book in some places. It's a very worthwhile book. It's called Lost Lives. You can go to Amazon or one of these sites and you'll be able to see it. Lost Lives, the stories of the men, women and children who died as a result of the Northern Ireland Troubles, and it lists from start to finish all the victims of all the atrocities across Northern Ireland. It's a great read, very informative. You'd need more than a 3 hour slot to go through it, that's for sure. But I think we've made enough points tonight to comfortably say we won't be forgiven or forgetting anything anytime soon, if not ever. You know, there's no room for forgiveness and forgetting for what these people have done to this country, especially this community. Communities were ripped apart, families were ripped apart, whole streets and cities and everybody was torn apart by these Republican cowards, and that's unforgivable. So the next time someone does ask you, why not forgive and forget? Why not sitting down, rhyme off the atrocities that you can, tell them about the 3 Scottish soldiers, tell them about the Massarin shootings, tell them about the Corporals killings, tell them a story about Jean McConville, and hopefully that should answer their question as to why you can't forgive and forget what these Republican cowards have done. Also mention to them about the millions and millions of pounds of taxpayers' money that's spent on appeasing Republicans, whereas the government seem hell-bent on doing everything to appease Republicans and nothing to help the families who have been victims from a kind of British side, or the victims of Irish Republican terrorism. They do absolutely nothing to help them anymore. When we done the 3 Scottish Soldiers show, we heard that the families of the murdered boys, they were presented with a medal. Then when you see the contrast, you see the difference when